Hello everybody, Sean here, and we are looking at the Good King Moogle fight. It is one of the new ones added for the 2.1 patch, and there's going to be a lot going on, so we're just going to jump right into this. First thing you're going to notice is we're marking things, and I'm going to go over that right here, right now. The reason we're marking things in Phase 1 is because there is a specific kill order you want to do in Phase 1, but more importantly it applies to Phase 2. When you kill the Moogles in Phase 1, however, the mark doesn't disappear. It's very handy-dandy. So we're going to mark them now, and then during Phase 2 we will not have to mark them. It'll be very clear what everyone has to do. The mark is for the kill order we plan to use, and the order for us, our group, is Black Mage, White Mage, Bard, Warrior, Paladin. That's not the end-all be-all order. There are a few variations of it. Generally, Black Mage, White Mage, Bard, those three are set in stone pretty much. It's the last two. That'll be up to your group. But this worked out quite well for us, so I do suggest using it to yourselves. But for Phase 1, when it starts, there's going to be one Moogle, and that's going to be the Paladin. Everyone should hit him until the Black Mage spawns. When that happens, all 4 DPS should switch to the Black Mage, while the 2 tanks remain on the Paladin to kill him off. Once he's dead, everyone else who was on the Paladin should switch to the Black Mage, kill the Black Mage. While that was happening, you also should have marked the Black Mage as 1. That way the mark is there for later on. Just as the Black Mage dies, likely, the White Mage will spawn just at the other end of the arena. All 4 DPS should switch to the White Mage, as well as 1 tank. The second tank should grab the Warrior who now spawned, which is named Ruffletuff. You can see him just behind the White Mage right now in this footage. Someone has to tank him, so one of your tanks should grab him, while the other tank and the 4 DPS kill the White Mage. Just as the White Mage dies, or a little beforehand, the Bard will spawn in the middle of the arena. He will be marked as number 3, and we will start DPSing him down. Again, your 4 DPS should be on him. 1 tank should still be on Ruffletuff. You can have the other tank also attack Ruffletuff if you want, or he can be on the Bard. Either way, the DPS is going to contribute to killing the Moogles. And I will explain why it is so important to kill them, because this is in fact a DPS race. You have to kill 5 of the 7 Moogles if you hope to survive what is to come. So you can see me lining up for number 4. We kill number 3, Moogle down. I jump over to number 4. Thankfully, being a Dragoon, I have some very nice gap closers. We switch on to number 4, which is the Warrior. Some people like to go to the Thief. The Thief does have lower health than the Warrior. However, we had already put in about 25 to 30% of the Warrior's health gone. So it just made more sense for us to go on to the Warrior himself and just kill him off. However, it's not totally unheard of to kill the Thief, and it's totally acceptable to do that. With the Warrior gone, we've already met the quota. We've got 5 of 7 down, so it doesn't matter if we don't kill any more. Now, the reason why it's so important that you kill 5 of 7 is because the Moogles here are going to get in a nice little circle. They're going to summon the King, and then the King is going to use his ultimate attack, Memento Moogle. For every Moogle that is alive, it does more damage. If 1 Moogle is alive, it's going to tickle you. If 2 are alive, it's going to do about 13 to 1500 damage. If 3 are alive, it's probably going to wipe half your party. It's extremely powerful, so that's why it's very important that 5 of the 7 Moogles must die. Once Phase 2 begins, you can see all the marks reappear, which is why it's so important to mark them in the beginning of the fight. And since the marks are there, you should automatically know what to do. 4 DPS should go to the Black Mage, and the Black Mage needs to die ASAP. No one wants the palm flares and then palm meteors blasting them in the face. 1 tank should grab the King and pull him to the far side of the arena, which you can see has been done. And the other tank should grab both Whisker Wall and Ruffletuff, which are the Paladin and the Warrior, and pull them off to the side. So again, when Phase 2 begins, all 4 DPS shift onto the Black Mage, 1 tank is on the King, and 1 tank is on the Warrior and the Paladin. And you can see here, I unfortunately got stunned, and then someone dropped a meteor on my face and I died. Very unfortunate, but we do recover from this. So once the Black Mage is done, it's just, the DPS in this have a very simple job. They just go from mark to mark to mark to mark. So you start on the Black Mage, which is 1, then you go to number 2, which is the White Mage, 3, which is the Bard, and then 4 and 5, which in our case is the Paladin and the Warrior, or Warrior and the Paladin. You should always have 1 tank on the King at all times. The King has a couple attacks, nothing too crazy. He has a line-based attack, It should be simple enough to dodge his basic attacks. The mechanic of the second phase that is really actually tricky is that for every Moogle that dies, the king inherits their superpower. So Palm Meteor, for instance, is the Black Mage's power. Even though the Black Mage is dead, the king can still cast Palm Meteor, so you have to keep that in mind. Same with the White Mage. Once the White Mage is gone, the king can still use the White Mage's abilities, so on and so forth. Also, as long as the Moogles are alive, the king can power them up so that they can use the abilities also. So if you take too long killing the Black Mage, the king can power up the Black Mage so he can cast Meteor himself. That is why it's so important to DPS them down quickly. You can also see that now that we got to number 4, I used the Limit Break, Stage 2, just to help burn him down. And the reason for this is Phase 2 still has a bit of a DPS check. If you're going too slowly, the king will begin using Memento Moogle. And same as before, the more that are alive, the more damage it's going to do. So it's very important that you at least get 4 Moogles down as quickly as you can. The Memento Moogle is a little weaker during Phase 2. So even with 3 Moogles alive, if he casts it right now, you would be fine. But it is important to get them down. So when you get to the 3rd or 4th Moogle, or basically whenever your level 2 Limit Break gets charged, your melee DPS should just burn down whatever Moogle he is looking at. The biggest thing to this fight is having the kill order is important. Having things marked is really good. Obviously, everyone needs to be doing their job properly. That is essential to every fight. But really, this is just about being aware of your specific role. Don't get overwhelmed, and just pay very close attention to what AoEs are happening around you. You don't want to be hit by a meteor. You don't want to be hit by any unnecessary damage, because extra damage on you is obviously going to mean time where the heals are not going towards tanks. Once you've killed the 5 marked Moogles, you can then divvy up your DPS however you like. So you can see I shifted onto the king, 1 tank shifted onto the thief who was still alive, another tank grabbed the archer who was still alive. They're slowly DPSing them down while I'm on the king. You could also have all 4 DPS just shift to the king himself. It really doesn't matter. At this point in the fight, if you've only got a couple Moogles left, it's pretty well in the bag. You're not. It's very unlikely you're going to die. Just keep in mind that at any time the king wants, he can crack out a meteor or some other powerful ability. So you don't think it's set in stone, but it's a very good chance you're going to win at this point. So again, once you've killed the 5 marked ones, which Black Mage, White Mage, Bard, Warrior, Paladin, once they're gone, you can have your DPS shift onto the king himself, or you can kill the last 2 Moogles and then go on to the king. I just went on to the king because obviously if you kill the king, then he can't use any of the super attacks. Now, for whatever reason, my group wanted to make sure all the Moogles were dead, but that isn't necessary. You can just shift straight onto the king and kill the king himself. Once you're at this point, it's just a standard kill, tank and spank. There's not much to him anymore. You can see he's hitting us with his various AoEs, but it's not going to be enough to kill you. And if you've made it this far, you can pretty well pat yourself on the back. So again, it's just pay very close attention to the kill orders, what your specific task is supposed to be, and you should have this one in the bag. I thank you for watching, and I hope to see everyone next time. And for more details, if you're looking for some specifics, make sure to check down below where everything will be detailed and listed for you in case you missed it during the video. We'll see everyone next time.